Good evening and welcome to the second part of the lesson, the Cabuliwalla. This is an English lesson for 5th standard. Time passed and Minnie forgot her old friend, the Cabuliwalla. She was growing up into a maiden. We made arrangements for Minnie's wedding. Minnie was getting married that night. As I sat in my study, a man came up and saluted me respectfully. At first, I did not recognize him. I then saw that it was old Rahman, the Cabuliwalla. I told him that there were many ceremonies going on and that he should come on another day. Time passed and Minnie forgot her old friend, the Cabuliwalla. She was growing up into a maiden. We made arrangements for Minnie's wedding. Minnie was getting married that night. As I sat in my study, a man came up and saluted me respectfully. At first, I did not recognize him. I then saw that it was old Rahman, the Cabuliwalla. I told him that there were many ceremonies going on and that he should come on another day. Now, you remember the first part of the story that the Cabuliwalla was sent into prison because he had stabbed someone. Now, time passed, years passed, and Minnie had slowly forgotten the Cabuliwalla. She had grown up into a beautiful young lady, and Minnie was getting married. So one day, as the marriage ceremonies were going on, Minnie's father saw a man come up to the house. And this man saluted Minnie's father very respectfully. Later on, Minnie's father recognized that this man was no other but then the old Cabuliwalla. Minnie's father told the Cabuliwalla that there were many ceremonies going on in the marriage, in the house related to the marriage, and that he should come on another day. The Cabuliwalla was about to turn, and then all of a sudden he said, "May I see the little one?" He was about to leave when he turned and said, "May I see the little one, sir?" Page 20, please. He still thought of Minnie as a little girl, running to him and calling, "Cabuliwalla, oh Cabuliwalla." He thought they would walk and talk as they had long ago. So the Cabuliwalla also did not realize that time had passed and Minnie had grown up into a young lady and she was getting married. So he still expected the small Minnie of years ago running to him and come and chat with him and talk with him and crack jokes with him. He did not realize that time had fled past so much. I told him once more that there were ceremonies. He then gave me a small packet of dried raisins, nuts and almonds for Minnie and said, "Give these to the little one. I too have a little one like her, and I think of her and bring you these fruits." So Minnie's father tells the Cabuliwalla that there are marriage ceremonies going on, so it's not possible to meet Minnie. And then this Cabuliwalla, he hands a small packet to Minnie's father and tells him to give it to the little one. The little one here is Minnie. And then he tells Minnie's father that your daughter reminds me of my daughter back home in Kabul. And like I give my daughter when I get home in the evening after a day's work a packet of chocolates or sweets, it's just like that I bring it for Minnie. Tears rolled down my eyes. I forgot that he was a poor Cabuliwalla. He was also a father. I called Minnie and she came out dressed in all her finery. So when the Cabuliwalla said this, Minnie's father's eyes also filled, because for a moment he had pictured this Cabuliwalla only as a fruit seller from Kabul coming to sell fruits and nuts in India. But that very minute he realized that this Cabuliwalla was a poor man, but he was also a father, a very doting father who missed his small daughter back home in his hometown in Kabul. Immediately the reaction that happened was Minnie's father calls Minnie out and she comes out dressed in her bridal finery. The Cabuliwalla was too surprised to see the small little girl, 5-year-old Minnie, grown up into such a beautiful young lady and dressed for her wedding. Page 21. The Cabuliwalla was stunned. That means he was shocked. He had expected a little girl and instead here was a grown maiden. He suddenly realized that his own daughter would have grown up too. So all of a sudden, when in the place of a 5-year-old girl, the Cabuliwalla saw a grown-up maiden, he was shocked beyond words. Immediately, the realization comes that his little daughter back home in Kabul also has grown into a young lady. I took out some money and gave it to him and said, "Go and see your daughter Rahman and may you have happiness." So immediately Mini's father takes out some money and gives it to Rahman, the Cabuliwalla, and tells him, "Go home to Kabul and see your daughter and you will be happy." I had to cut down the expenses for the wedding. We could not afford the military band or the electric lights, but to me, the feast was all the more brighter because of the thought that in a distant land, a long lost father had again met his only child. Now, when Mini's father gave the Cabuliwalla some money, naturally the money that was kept for the expenses for his daughter's wedding, he had to cut down some expenses here. He had to cut down the military band that was supposed to be playing at the wedding, and he had to cut down the electric lights. He could not put up electric lights and illuminate the area around his house because the money that was kept for doing this was given to the poor Cabuliwalla. But really, to say this man has done a very good deed. He has helped the Cabuliwalla go home and see his young daughter, who was also like Mini's age and who was maybe ready on the threshold of marriage. So that happiness which Mini got, or Mini's father got, was much more than the happiness that was got from the music of the electric military band or the lights that were put up around the house. So indeed, this story has come to an end, but a lesson for all of us is that let us try to bring happiness into someone's lives every day, if possible, if it is within our means. Now for the exercises on page 21. Let us understand. Who is the I in the story? Now here in the story, we have some places I. Let us understand who is this I referring to. We know that I is a father because he has a daughter named Mini. What else do we know about him? Answer these questions. So here I refers to Mini's father. But let us see what else we have come to know about him through this lesson. What was he working on at the beginning of a story? He was writing a novel or a book. 2. Was he a patient or an impatient man? How do you know? He was a very patient man. That is why he kept listening to the questions asked by Mini. 3. What sort of a father was he? He was a gentle, kind and loving father. 4. Was he a man who was good to everyone, rich or poor? Yes, he was a man who was good to everyone, rich and poor. 5. Was he a kind man? If so, give an example of his kindness. Yes, he was a kind man because immediately he thought of taking out some money that was kept for the marriage expenses of Mini, and he gave it to Rahman the Cabuliwalla, telling him to go and meet his daughter in Kabul. So that was the kindness that was in him, because he sacrificed the money that he had to spend for his daughter's marriage. He sacrificed and he helped another father to go home and meet the daughter. So this shows that he was a man with a generous heart and a kind heart. Now coming to B, answer the following questions. Why was Mini frightened of the Cabuliwalla at first? Now she was frightened because she had the notion that Cabuliwallas used to catch children and put them in a sack or a big bag that they had with them and take them away. 2. How did Mini lose her fear of the Cabuliwalla? She began talking with him and chatting with him, and that is how she lost her fear of the Cabuliwalla. 3. What question did Mini ask and what was the Cabuliwalla's reply? Mini usually used to ask the Cabuliwalla what he had in his bag, and the Cabuliwalla used to reply that it was an elephant. 4. Why was the Cabuliwalla arrested? He was arrested because he had stabbed another person. 5. Why did Mini forget her old friend, the Cabuliwalla? Now Mini forgot her old friend because it was a long time that Cabuliwalla had not visited them. And as we say, as time goes, we forget many people and many places and many incidents. So with time, this memory began to fade, and she forgot that she had a friend called the Cabuliwalla who used to bring her nuts and dry fruits. Question 6. Who came and saluted Minnie's father? It was the Cabuliwalla who came and saluted Minnie's father. 7. What present did Minnie's father give to the Cabuliwalla and why? Minnie's father gave some money to the Cabuliwalla and told him to go home and meet his daughter and be united with his daughter and be happy. 8. Minnie's father had to cut down the expenses for his daughter's wedding, but he was happy. Why? Yes, he had to cut down the expenses for his daughter's wedding, but he was happy because the money that he had taken and given the Cabuliwalla made a father get united with his daughter. And there's no much greater happiness than that for Minnie's father or for anyone else. If we make one person get united with their family member, I think that happiness is more than anything else we can imagine. Thoughts. Once a year, Rahman went back to his own country. Which country do you think this was? Why do you think people call Rahman a Cabuliwalla? Now, once a year, Rahman went back to his own country, Kabul. And you can say this is Kabul because his name indicates that Cabuliwalla, that means a person from Kabul. Many people from the hilly regions come down to the plains every year and then go back. Why do you think they do this? Now, many people from the hills, they come down to the plains to enjoy the pleasant summers sometimes and also to do a little business, and then they go back to the hilly regions. Now coming to vocabulary. Read the following. We can change many verbs and adjectives to noun. For example, recollect is a verb. The noun form of recollect is recollection. Identifiable is an adjective. The noun form of identifiable is identification. Now tick the correct nouns for the following verbs and adjectives. Now this exercise, I want you to try and do it yourself. Maybe you can take a dictionary. It will help you. It is a little bit difficult, but if you take a dictionary with the main word, like the first one, number 1, contributory. You have to check the dictionary for contributory, and in that you will get the verb, you will get the correct noun. It will be written there, noun N, verb V, adjective A, D, J. So open your dictionary onto word contributory and you will get the correct noun there. See that and tick mark in the textbook. So this is an exercise for you, because with this you'll be getting a lot of practice on how to make use of the dictionary too. Now coming to listening and speaking. Is being a chatterbox a good thing or bad thing? How important is it to be a good listener? Discuss with your friends. Now, a chatterbox means a person who keeps on talking continuously without any stop. So that's not a very good thing either. We need to listen to people. Always you cannot be talking and talking and talking and making the other person listen to you. You also need to listen to someone else who is talking. So it is vice versa. We have to talk for some time and keep quiet and listen to what the other person says. So being a chatterbox all the time is not at all good. We have to be a very good listener too. With this I come to the end of the second part of the lesson. Your homework will be to do vocabulary, look up the dictionary and identify the nouns and do the task in the textbook. For your homework, please do A, B and vocabulary in the notebook. A, B and vocabulary in the notebook.